it's me again. What an exciting day. Oh my goodness. Let me preface by saying this is not financial advice. This is my own personal blog. You are listening to One Bird's Thoughts. This is entertainment. Hence, I wear a bird costume. Are you not entertained? Today was a very exciting day for Mmtlp. There was a lot of price action. It increased quite a bit on 2 million shares, and at the time I took the screen grab, it was about half hour before market close, and then after market close, it still wound up being about the same price. Great. I had work, very busy day for my job at work, and then I had the Twitter space, and then I told people I'd do this video on popular demand, and as I was feeding the sheep, one was having a baby, and the baby was having trouble getting out, so I'd help that baby out, help mom out a bit. Picture shown here. Whew, what a day. I think I've earned myself a drink. Canned wine, hooray. Canned wine is becoming quite the thing in Texas because you can take it tube it on the river. So we're drinking Stella Rosa, tropical mango. It's not like wine made with mangoes. It's like a white grape blend, and they add mango to it. So, yay, mango wine. Time to unwind with wine. I'm very excited about Mmtlp. Remember, we are waiting on the dates to be put on the S1, the new record date. Until that new record date is given, and there's a finality to Mmtlp and it becomes next bridge, you're going to see Mmtlp do this. It could still be on the up and up. That's a possibility too. Or it might go up and down, up and down. It's just the volatility coming of people trying to swing this while they can. And this is like the green beacon in a red market. So a lot of people are going to be attracted to this. As Smokey stated last night, try and swing trade it. That's fine. More volume. But things will change once the record date comes out. And for those who still don't know quite what Mmtlp is, it says Metamaterials Preferred Share. This dates back to the agreement for Metamaterials to list on NASDAQ. They merged with an oil and gas company. It was a reverse takeover. Part of that contingency, as I stated earlier, was that Meta got uplisted to the NASDAQ. If you held Metamaterial shares, you got extra shares. If you held Torchlight, that was the oil and gas side of it, you got a Meta share, and you also got a preferred share, which is what became Mmtlp, which entitles you to the proceeds of the sale of the oil and gas assets. I'll recite how John Berta stated how the goal of Torchlight was always to upsell it to a bigger company. They've been trying to sell this Orogrande since 2019, ever since the oil was confirmed. Cable talked about it earlier today in the Twitter spaces, how when they started exploring the Orogrande, they did find a lot of gas. They weren't too sure yet about the oil, but then they did find the oil, and boy, did they find quite a bit of oil. I'd like to state that, this play, unlike other security plays that are quite volatile, a lot of people call that a squeeze factor. This comes with 3.2 billion barrels of oil. Anywhere from 500 million barrel oil equivalent to 1.9 barrel oil equivalent of gas. A barrel oil equivalent of gas is 6,000 cubic feet. If you math that out, that comes to be several, trillion cubic feet of gas. It could be a few trillion cubic feet, could be several trillion cubic feet of natural gas. This does not include any of the new pay zones, and I talked about that in a recent video where I did the well logs that were done on the newer wells, and I went over that, and it seems to be very favorable, and they got very excited, and I didn't want to think that my excitement was premature. Maybe I was just not, maybe I wasn't seeing something obvious, but the more opinions I got on these blogs, the more it just confirmed my excitement. So this does not include the new pay zones. What also comes with the Orogrande, it's not just the rights to the oil and gas. It's not just, by the way, the rights to oil and gas is not inclusive of the land. There's 3 types. People say, well, this isn't for the land, it's for the lease. It is not for the lease. That's different. This is for the actual oil and gas itself. It's called a right. You have rights to property. That's your property. You can own a property, own 0% of the oil and gas that comes with it. You can own all the oil and gas, but own no rights to that property, the actual physical property itself. Hence, you have to get a lease to get on that land to go get your oil and gas. That's where the lease comes in. You don't own the actual property itself, but you have the mineral rights and you want your rights. You have to strike a deal with the property owner. So that's the 3 difference between a lease, property ownership, and oil and gas ownership. This is for the actual ownership of oil and gas, not the lease. That's going to be a common FUD tactic coming up. In addition to that, we have quite a bit of aquifers on the property. We have the Bone Spring Aquifer and the Diablo Aquifer, which is on the property for Hudspeth County. So we have quite the bit of fresh water. And in fact, one of those wells was a freshwater well. Wells in oil and gas are great because you don't have to truck in water to drill. The drilling, most of the time, is a mud motor. There's different other types of motors. Usually it's a mud motor. It needs mud to facilitate the drilling. That's why you're going to see these big pools behind drill rigs. That's where the water is for the mud motor. But there's other types of drilling too. That's just what you'll see commonly today. Also, if you're going to do any type of fracking, you need water. And you're going to mix water with the chemicals, but you still need water. You don't have to truck it in. It's right there. It's great. What also comes with this property, it's pipeline owned by Kinder Morgan, and that runs right through where our lease is. What also comes with this property is a 20-inch oil pipeline, which is also owned by Kinder Morgan. This is on university lands. It's not quite on our lease proper. However, it is on university land, and it's right underneath the Orogrande block. It's in block G for university lands. We're A, D, E, F. This is in block G. It's a 5.5-mile stretch to get there. And it's on university land. Nobody else is leasing that property right now that's under it. I checked with the university. Nobody else is leasing it. So it's not just you have raw lands. There's infrastructure there. There's pipelines set up already, which is very easily accessible to hook onto. The pipeline means that it reduces your cost of goods sold by quite a bit. You don't have to truck anything out. You can just pay the pipeline. Some people will say those pipelines are inactive. That's incorrect. They are active. In fact, Kinder Morgan made a release in July about the pipelines that run through our property. They are active. I have calculated this dividend out to be, in many videos, to be $29 to $46. That was based on the oil value alone. I said the gas could be a separate $3 to $14. If you add the two together, the dividend's anywhere from $32 to $60. $32 is what I feel the bare bones would be, the lowest you could get, to $60. It could be higher than $60, but I'm very, comfortable with $32 to $60. I could be wrong. This is just my opinion. I've done the math. You can, see lots of formulas. One of them's applying quantitative analytics to the northern oil and gas sale. And I take that and apply it to the Mmtlp sale. I also analyzed the Shell deal. The Shell ConocoPhillips deal did not have quite as much oil or gas as we did. That had about 1.4 billion barrels of oil and then about 500 million barrel oil equivalent of gas. That came with a lot of infrastructure. It came with pipeline. That was a water pipeline, though. And it came with the wells. You do have to maintain the wells. It did come with wells, though. I've always done the calculations based on not having wells. If you were to take away all the infrastructure of the ConocoPhillips deal at the time, it would have been about $7 billion just for their oil and gas assets alone. That does not include any of the infrastructure on the property, any of the oil and gas pumps. as a result, 29 to 46 plus 3 to 14, that means the asset, the Orogrande per share of Nextbridge is $32 to $60. This has also factored in other party interests, such as the McCabe interests, Wolfbone interest in this property. It also took out the royalty holders, such as University Land. This has already been factored into my calculations. So going into Nextbridge, we're going to see a bit of a share adjustment. It's the other working interest parties coming in, as stated in the S1. So right now we have 66.5% of the working interest. Revenue interest, that means royalties, we have 49.9%. But if you take away the royalty holders and don't include them, like for the sale to the rights, you say, well, it's 75% rights to the property, then we get 66.5% of that sale. I've done the math on both of those, how to use both methods. They work out to be pretty close. If we have 66.5% and there's already 165.5 million shares, you math it out, there's going to be about 248 to 250 million Nextbridge shares once this converts. But like I said, the $32 to $60, that includes this math. That includes this math, guys. And that is also based upon a tax-free event, meaning that you would get shares in the buying company. I wholeheartedly believe that, this is set up for a sale and that there are interested parties in the Orogrande. You're not going to hear anything be announced until after spin out, as I've discussed before. So I'm very excited. The S1 dates could be released any day. It's up to the SEC, and then it's up to Meta to come out with the dates. Once the dates are set in that S1, then it's on. Once a PR comes out, your brokerages will be notified of what's going on, and things will start to happen very quickly. This is where having a plan comes in. I like to have a couple different plans according to different scenarios. One of them is that if my own personal goals, price points aren't met, I'm happily holding in the Nextbridge. Other plans can include selling and buying back in if there's enough time. It all depends, but I have a couple different plans in place. And I'm very excited in either case. I don't feel I'm going to walk away from this, wishing something else happened. I'm very excited. I certainly have, done the analytics on this, and I've done other studies. Speaking of other analytics, Exxon is considering taking over buying out Denbury. How this would work is Exxon would offer Denbury XYZ amount of money, and Denbury would either say yes or no, and they'd negotiate. And then it could possibly be that the holders of Denbury will get stock in Exxon. But I'm very excited about this oil and gas. And like I said, if, my price points aren't met, I'm happily holding in the Nextbridge. And that's coming up soon. And if they are met, hooray. But I know lots of people can't trade this. And that's why I'm bringing to you, this isn't just a squeeze play. There's actual, very good value to these underlying assets. And I think it's set up to sell. It was Torchlight's goal to sell this. They started positioning themselves to sell this back in 2019. Of course, then 2020 happened. Many oil and gas companies who were sort of looking around at the time did not do anything for 2020. Exxon hasn't done anything for well over 2 years, and here's the Denbury. Of course, this isn't definitive as the article states. They're just talking right now. But Exxon is starting to make moves. Chevron, people have brought this to my attention, but Chevron is aggressively advertising that they're going to expand and be pretty prominent in the Permian Basin. When I was in Colorado, that was actually Chevron territory. For those when I was up there, I went to a helium facility, the Dragontail helium facility. If ConocoPhillips winds up getting the Orogrande, then they will be number 1 in the Permian. With the Shell acquisition, they're currently number 2. If they get the Permian, they'll be king, they'll be number 1. There's a few different big oil and gas companies who are sort of set up. Marathon really hasn't done any big acquisitions yet, so it'd be interesting to see what Marathon does. Coming up, I think it's going to be big oil because they certainly have the cash flow and they do cash buybacks. As I explained to Gray on the Twitter Spaces, how big oil companies work is that when they have record profits, they do share buybacks. And so when they do acquisitions to get assets with stock, it doesn't cause dilution because those shares are already issued. So it doesn't really cause any dilution. They bought back the shares and then they use them to purchase an asset. It doesn't cause dilution. It's great. I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see how tomorrow is. Like I said, price action for Mmtlp could very well do this. Up and down until the dates in the S1 are sealed. But if it continues to rally, I'm sure many of us will be happy. I will see you soon. Goodbye.